West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. We are in the WCET studio today, and the spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive, and especially help us thrive in our lives. I have a very special guest for you today. I was pretty surprised of the reason why he's on my show. I will have to tell you, but this is something that is growing and that I was unaware of until Stephanie brought it to my attention. I'm like, are you kidding me? So who I would like to introduce for you today is John Riley, and he helps businesses de-escalate their employees. I guess there's a lot going on behind closed doors that we don't know about, but there's been acts of violence to coworkers, colleagues. So I want to welcome John Riley to the show.
Hi, it's nice to be here, thank you.
Let's talk about what's going on behind closed doors, huh? We're like, I wish this would have been around when I was in some of these corporate meetings, I'm serious. And I will tell you, when we were just talking before the camera started running, usually what it is the people, if you privately ask them, they will tell you what the problem is. And they'll tell you who the problem is.
And the problem
So welcome to the show. Let's talk about what's happening. And we kind of know COVID's caused a lot more stress. Maybe it's just people were so divided that they just can't leave it at home. They're bringing it into the room, or they're not being heard. So share a little bit what's going on here.
One of the biggest problems is that no one's ever taken a lot of stock about people skills. When you interview someone for a job to be at your front desk or something, no one ever considers how well or how effective they might handle someone who comes in who's loud, rude, obnoxious, demanding to see the manager, demanding to make a complaint. Just because someone looks you in the eye and smiles and all that does not necessarily mean, and I've seen it time and time again through life and experiences, that doesn't mean they can effectively and successfully de-escalate a situation. And so that's part of the problem, is that no one gives any type of training to teaching people, number one, just go back to just some empathy and compassion for each other. Just agree to disagree if you disagree with something, legal, politics and stuff like that, right?
There's a difference of people yelling at you than lunging at you and violent. I mean, not that I didn't want to do that at times, but I mean, you're involved because you've created this training going in.
Right.
Because what? People, you saw that people were like beating each other up
that's because I've seen a lot of good people who mean well don't realize that they say and do things that actually escalate a situation. Let's take a little example of a road rage situation. You're driving down the road, someone does something stupid in front of you, and you just kind of give them a dirty look. Now, theoretically, it could potentially just end right there, but what happens if that person catches you giving you a dirty look and they turn around and give you a dirty look? Are you going to be able to have the self-discipline and self-awareness to recognize, I'm just going to let it go? Or are you going to get that much more upset? Doggone it, you did something stupid and now you want to look at me? And that is how you can get into a road rage cycle,
a lot of people
right?
off on the freeway.
And that is what can happen at a workplace. If you don't have the discipline and awareness to recognize that you're about to lose control of yourself, you can say or do something, and I've seen good people who mean well do things that they don't realize could escalate a situation. I walked into a business one time to prepare for a training seminar, and the lady at the front desk, awesome lady, because I talked to her later, she's busy. As I came in the front door, she looked at me and just calmly just motioned for me to go around, didn't acknowledge me, and I laughed because I said, now what if I was having a bad day and I come into this organization and that's what I get, just this blank look and a point to where I need to go? That could have escalated a situation. And that is why we ask people, well, of course, because now you disrespected me. You didn't look me in the eye, you didn't greet me, you didn't smile at me. One of the most powerful de-escalating tools you have is your smile. Scientific studies have shown that a smile, just the act of smiling, releases all these what they call feel-good chemicals into the human body. It also helps you stay calm in a situation. You've heard of nervous laughter. Yeah. I used to know when my daughter was lying all the time because she would get into the giggle fits. And I've actually seen it in some of my training seminars. You got these big burly men go into a scenario and they're dealing with one of my instructor role players and they all of a sudden have giggle fits. And it's funny, but it's not funny, because then they'll brush it off later and say, well, you know, I wouldn't do that in real life. Maybe.
But if you
this is why my training program emphasizes teamwork, because if you're ever in a situation and you're dealing with someone who's loud, rude, and obnoxious, and you're holding your own, but all of us have a trigger line at some point. We can only handle ignorant obnoxiousness if that's a word, for just so long. And you might already be dealing with stuff in your life anyway, and now your trigger line is just that much shorter. And this is where someone like Stephanie might have to see, okay, you know what? I think Pam's about to lose it. Let me step in, interact, cause a distraction, take over the conversation. You need to have the discipline and awareness to recognize Stephanie's helping you and not go, oh, you know, I got this. Because I've seen that go sideways. No, you need to step away, take a deep breath, calm yourself down before you re-engage, if at all. If you're dealing with someone who's already expressed, I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to a manager, why would you stay engaged with that person? You're escalating it. Turn them over to someone else. Turn it over to the manager or to Stephanie. No. Or just turn it over to someone else to take over the conversation.
She's very nice. You know, yeah, well, I'll give you an incident that just happened last week. I had a dentist appointment, right? And, you know, my dentist appointment, I'm already annoyed that I have to wait in my car before they can bring you in, right? Not their fault, but they're just adding to the problem of the society, what we're dealing with today. Like, I always have to have my mask with me. Anyways, I'm in my car, and so I call, and I happen to call the wrong office because I switched offices. They have a couple locations. And I'm talking to the lady on the phone, and she's like, okay, I'm in my car, I'm here. I was the first appointment, right? 8 o'clock, I had a million things to do. Stephanie, you know, would understand this. All of a sudden, she says, we'll let you know our computers are down. I'm like, I don't give a crap if your computer's down. You know, just tell them I'm here. And I waited, and so 10 minutes goes by, John, and I'm looking at my future appointments I have throughout the day, which is going to make me rush, right? And so I get in, I call again, and she's like, I'm like, I get somebody else. They go, our computers are down, we'll let them know. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm the first appointment. How much computers do you really need to? I was actually mad. So I walked in I go, never mind, I'm going in. You know, shut the phone, well, you know, click the phone off, right? Walk in there, and I'm late, and I let him know that I'm going to be late for my next appointments. I go, I need to get this done ASAP. You just skip some stuff that you steps. Anyways, they were charming to me, and it just de-escalated me. Charming, nice, polite, we're so sorry, our computers. And then I realized their computer systems were connected to their phone system, so that's why they couldn't contact the next, because, you know, but at the time I was just,
it wasn't personal.
No, it wasn't personal. And by the end of the day, I'm apologizing. I'm so sorry I walked in with such an attitude. You know.
But can you imagine what would have happened? You're already angry, and you go in there, and again, that this nice person that they hired to be the front desk actually did not know how to handle you and your anger and snapped off at you.
Yeah.
This would have just gone sideways, but they knew enough to just, hey, ma'am, we're really sorry, blah, blah, blah. The other thing is you also recognize it's nothing personal. If there's anything that I would want to pass on to the country and the world today, is stop acting like it's such a personal issue against you. We're all in this together.
I know.
Just show a little empathy and compassion for each other. That other person is probably dealing with some crap that probably worse than you are. And they're probably barely hanging on and doing the best they can to get by too. It's nothing against personal about you. We're sorry that your schedule is being messed up. Da 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 da. Right?
Yeah, I know. I understand.
Yeah.
And there were, and you know, funny. The prior meeting, my prior appointment, I had like a receptionist that, you know, she goes, you have to wait in your car.
Yeah.
And I was ready to walk in and inquire, go right after her. Like,
right.
Yeah, and I did wait in my car, lady. I was so mad.
Right. Yeah.
But it was somebody else that was very kind. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Our computer's down. Well, anyway, so they went through that thing. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you this question that I would ask my husband behind closed doors. What do you think the problem is with happening at the office when people are at home getting allowed, bratty people that haven't been put in their place, and they're just been able to vent at home? Do you know what I'm saying? And then they're not been trained to communicate with like family members or whatever, because I feel sometimes these people go home, I'm like, I bet she goes home and just goes off because she's allowed to go off.
Right.
Right? And so you go to the work and guys aren't going, or guys or women, I'm not, like maybe Stephanie, I'm not putting up with this.
Right.
Like when she was doing she was doing a speech at a fundraising event, and people were just like gabbing, and she literally stopped her mic and said, you know, other people are here to listen what this mission of this organization that we're raising money for today. Could you guys keep it down? And I thought, way to go, Steph.
Yeah.
You know, way to go, Steph. You know.
I'm sorry she had to go through that too.
Yes, but wasn't that the case, Steph? Yes, and she put on this beautiful speech. But how is that playing a role of where they grew up and Nobody told him. Nobody took him out in the woodshed and said, "Enough already."
And that's exactly right. No one has learned and developed these basic human decency, people skills. Agree to disagree, be polite, courteous, and so on. It's all very selfish. It's about me. You know what? You offended me. You've hurt my feelings. And I'm going to let you know it.
And I tell my parents off all the time, so I can tell you off.
Yeah, and I've actually through my years as a police officer, I have dealt with young children and just knew, and then ended up being correct, that we would deal with them as they grew older, just because we could see. Unfortunately, sometimes it was just dysfunctional home life, and I get it. But sometimes it was just definitely a lack of any type of home life and any type of parenting and all that. And sure enough, you know, certain names, last names, and all that, we just learned to associate that with run-ins with the law and having trouble and so on. It begins at home. Everything begins at home.
Are you still a police officer?
No, I retired in 2015.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And you came from, because I see you here with Stephanie's, husband Ed. But did you work together? Is that how you guys knew each other?
No, I was a Grand Rapids police officer
Okay.
for roughly 20 years, and actually Ed, God bless him, is the very first person I hired into my company outside of my sphere of influence, my friends and so on, that I kind of grabbed on to help me start the business and kick it off the ground. So Ed's actually been an integral part of this from the beginning.
You know, growing up, I deal with people all the time too, with the media, and I've had to leave positions because of one person.
Yeah.
And we all knew. And whenever we would have somebody come in that kind of was trying to, what do you call those, consultants? And I'm like, they're never going to get rid of the problem. So they're not going to get rid of the problem. And then after a while, we'd sit at meetings and we would all just pretend like we were involved because we were required. And how else can we improve the situation? And that we'd all go, we don't know. Because we know, right? How many times if you're going into a situation like that you instantly know what the problem is?
Actually, we've had some training seminars with different organizations where there'll be someone there with a very strong personality and basically mishandle some of the scenarios that that they go through with us. And I would talk to their supervisor who got us to come in and train in the first place, and I would ask about that person, and they're already aware of it, just like you said. We all know someone who's just a little bit tough. They have to win the argument. They have to get their point across. They have to have the last
Divide
word.
and conquer is how they play.
They will struggle with properly, effectively, and successfully de-escalating a situation because they want to win. It's not about winning. It's about safely and effectively de-escalating a situation so nothing gets broken and no one gets hurt. Unfortunately, the public media thinks and believes, fueled by social media and general media, that there's one thing that someone could say or do that could just de-escalate someone, and that's not true. If you were upset right now, there is not a single thing that I could say or do that would de-escalate you, depending on your level of agitation. Well,
give me money. See, how about
but
$5,000?
even if I gave you 10 grand,
be.
even if I gave you 10 grand, it would take time for you to burn off that adrenaline.
Why is that?
That's
I
just
don't like that
natural
part of myself.
You have to learn that about yourself to effectively and successfully de-escalate a situation. You need to know where your level is. This is why teamwork is involved. If you recognize, okay, now I'm really getting hot here. You know what, sir, man, why don't you hang on? I'm going to step out of the office, get someone else to talk to you. You need to know and have the discipline to know when you need to disengage from a situation. The longer you stay in an engaged situation, in a stressful situation, the higher the probability you are apt to do or say something that will escalate that situation. It's normal for anybody.
Well, isn't it nice when we were kids, though? Guys could duke it out. You can't do that anymore.
No.
Duke it out, and then they went inside and they hey, let's go play basketball. Women were like,
been there, done that.
We're going to get you somewhere down the line. You just wait.
I have seen neighborhood fights, 20, 30 people, all girls, from something stupid that happened on Facebook or in the school hallway, and they would go around hunting each other down. And a lot of times we would get there, the girls are gone, but the evidence was there. Clothes, hair, just the evidence of huge brawl.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, and I have debated that with my husband. I'm like, I don't know why we do that. I wish we did. Honestly, I really wish we did to fix it. I know that people are more kind, but then you get people that feel like if they give in, they're just being walked on. It's probably something from their childhood. They were bullied as a child or at home. Whereas they bring home into the office.
And that actually goes back to my road rage situation. They feel that if I don't back down now, I'm going to be viewed as weak or whatever. It's actually an incredible amount of internal strength to be able to recognize this is not worth it. You're not worth my time, money, and issue, and I'm just going to keep driving. I had a situation at Cabela's.
They hate that too if you ignore them. You
Not
know,
necess-
bullies.
no.
You know, I mean, if somebody's mad and you just ignore them and you keep going. You know, I've had people, you know, flip me off, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know,
Okay,
whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly right.
That was you.
I had a situation with a driver driving rather carelessly through the parking lot at Cabela's. This is about a few years ago. As I saw him inappropriately driving through the parking lot, I saw him coming, so I stopped. As he went by me, he flicked me off. I hadn't done anything.
Yeah.
Now imagine if I decided to flick him off or get offended, because things start to go sideways when you allow yourself to take on offense.
I know.
And if I had gone after him or something. Now, I don't know if he's carrying a gun. I mean, this whole situation could have just absolutely gone sideways. As it was, this is what's helped me through life. I expect the other driver to do something stupid and careless. And so when it happens, I'm like, well, there it is. There's a stupid, careless driver. And when they look at me and act like if I did something wrong, I'm like, that is also an ignorant person. And then I just keep going. It's
All right,
not
so
worth
you
it.
come in. I mean, I wanted to say this too. You know, when I was growing up, back in the day, I don't know if kids raise their kids this way. My dad would put us in our room and just would say, "Scream it out, shut the door, scream it out." You know, and I think that did something for you. But then you'd come downstairs and you were so angry. And so sometimes I look at people, I'm like, somebody needs to take this person to the woodshed and just leave him there and let him just scream. Do you, when you go in, is it, you know, how are people responding to this? It's like, it's not me, it's her.
The training program that I put
8 weeks, 10
together,
years? What is
the
it?
training program they do is 4.5 hours long.
Okay.
People go through 4 very dynamic, realistic scenarios. For example, if I was working with you and your people, my team would set up scenarios such as someone who's angry with the station coming in here and demanding to talk to you or whatever. How would you handle that situation?
Okay.
And the scenarios are 3 minutes long, and we will know within 45 seconds whether or not this person is effective at handling a situation. It can be that quick, or they're mishandling it. The instructors then go into a critique phase where we'll talk to you about what was done right, because we always want to affirm and validate what you're doing right, because we want you to keep doing it. And then we'll talk about the things that you may be doing wrong. For example, hey, Pam, you did really good in this scenario. You maintained a calm tone of voice, but did you know you have a tendency to roll your eyes? That type of feedback is invaluable, because you could go through life with all the book knowledge about how to de-escalate a situation, but if you don't realize you're rolling your eyes under stress or with someone, you're going to be the problem. Because you can imagine how disrespectful that is. Everyone wants to be treated with respect, no matter how rude and loud and obnoxious they are. And they doggone sure feel it when they're being disrespected. I'm really angry at you, and you want to roll your eyes at me? And then it can just go sideways. Because now I start getting more and more upset. Now imagine if you had rolled in there at the dentist's office and you're angry. I'm the first, I'm the first appointment, and the girl looks at you and goes, oh, here we go. How would that have made you feel? You probably would have gone bananas.
That's what you did last time.
Rolled her eyes in, you see. And so a lot of good people don't realize that they say
Yeah.
and do things. And that's why it's so invaluable to go through training with my team, because that's where the magic happens. Without them, I'm just another lecture presentation. But when you go through the team and you actually go through these scenarios that help you develop stress inoculation, muscle memory, self-confidence, and confidence with your other colleagues, because again, we stress teamwork, that is where you can start creating a team cohesiveness in a corporate or business environment, so that you guys learn how to handle stress together.
Well, I think too, a lot of it is the leadership
Absolutely.
in these companies.
Absolutely.
And them allowing the bully, or even the quiet bully. You know, there's those little jabs.
Yep.
And after a while, you're
Passive
like,
aggressiveness.
passive aggressive is huge. And then the victim. I always lost because the victim mentality stepped in, and then the woman that was the biggest bully could cry.
Yep.
I didn't have a prayer after that, and I'm going, and I was not one to cry unless I went back to my office. But she would cry, and all of a sudden you got the CFO. You got all these people like, oh, it's going to be okay.
Yep.
How do you deal with, and it gets you so angry. I'm like, what are you guys doing? She's supposed to be the leader of this, and she cries.
Yep. That's just one of those things we just have to learn to deal with. Recognize that that's the problem, and then adapt and improvise. There's no easy answer, because how you handle one person is not how you would handle another one. The dynamics are very different, personalities, upbringing, and so on. But recognizing the problem is obviously the first step. How you handle yourself, how you handle your emotions while you're reacting and responding to them, that's the key. Because if you end up saying or doing something that escalates the situation, no one cares when you say, well, it's her fault. Yeah, but you didn't have to go and do this or say this.
I know that now.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, so we go in and tell us a little bit how people contact you and what are some things that you're hearing? Because I want to talk about COVID. I want to talk about how they're treating the police, the leadership in their own community, how they're able to swear to these people. They can't go to their office and swear at their boss.
No, I know.
And still have a job. No. But they're able to look at our authority that protect us, right? And they turn around and they're like, oh, they're gonna call them all these names, but yet they're surprised they get fired. I don't understand. What are your thoughts about what's happening there?
They have been empowered by seeing other people in leadership positions, federal level, act very, very childishly and so on. So they feel empowered to behave the same way. It has been known that children learn by watching and learning from their adults. It begins at home. This whole generation just watched these last 8 years of some really ridiculous behavior. And one day when it's not such a hot topic, I will be able to point out from both sides what people were saying and doing that were just absolutely inappropriate and escalating situations. But people have been empowered by watching this and watching people get away with it. And I'm sorry, but the reality is there's nothing that we've witnessed in the last 4 years or even the 8 years that promoted agree to disagree, that promoted law and order, that promoted any type of empathy and compassion for each other. It's all blame, 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 and blame some more, and finger pointing, and get angry.
Okay, I would agree with that we don't know how to do it. But can you come together, can you be in an office setting and there's no win-win. It's always, I don't know how to describe it. How would you even handle?
You got to try not to get into this win attitude, because that's where you can get to the point where, okay, I need to win this argument, or I need to make my point, or I need to have the last word, or I need to get my point across. It's not so much that. If someone else has a strong personality and so on, and you know that they're the office bully with their passive aggressiveness and manipulation because they know how to turn on the tears and stuff like that, do what you got to do to be successful in your job. Don't worry about that other person. You know that everyone else knows that that's the problem. In my time in the military and the police department, I have run across people, leadership and so on, that I was not impressed with. I knew there was always tomorrow. There was always next week. There was always the next election. I stayed focused on what I had to do. And again, I treated people with as much empathy and compassion as I could, because I understand that they could be probably going through something worse than I am. Right? Everyone, there's not a single thing that someone that you run into that they're having a bad day. There's not something that they're going through that you haven't either at some point. We've all had trouble at home, finances, medical, blah, blah, blah. We've been there. We may have better coping skills, but that doesn't mean you at some point cannot relate to them. And how many times, they even have Hallmark movies about the same subject. You have the classroom bully or whatever, and then all of a sudden come to find out, oh, it's because so-and-so is dying of cancer in their life, and they're just kind of taking it out on everyone. You don't know. All you see is this surface person being a total knucklehead. But there could be something that will tear your heart out if you actually knew the truth, and they just too prideful to share with everyone, this is what's going on in my life.
Well, it's not like you necessarily, okay, some of the things my husband being a CEO, you don't want to reveal you don't want to talk about all your vulnerabilities or what you're fearful of, your past, because it'd be used against you, and we have this innate fear that we're going to be discovered that maybe we don't know as much as that you were hired for, or MOVE program, or even like Stephanie's dealing with marketing, getting out there, and I don't know all the answers of what to handle COVID-ish situation. Well, how are we going to overcome this? So isn't some people just afraid they're going to lose their position because they don't know everything?
That's a possibility, yes, and unfortunately, that's probably a reality in some places. Unfortunately, when you bottle up this much stress and so on, it has a tendency to come out in passive aggressiveness and in other ways, road raging or snapping at the kids or snapping at your coworker, and so on. I mean, that's historically and traditionally proven. You bottle up all this stress, it's going to start coming out the seams some way, somehow. And that is where stress management and having this self-awareness and self-discipline to recognize that you're going through something and probably shouldn't be making big corporate decisions because your grandmother is dying of cancer or whatever. You know, it's just, you need to come to that point where you need to recognize what you need to do for yourself. This thing about COVID, again, showing each other our empathy and compassion. We are all dealing with this crap, folks.
Yeah. Is that what you're seeing most? You've seen it just get worse.
Lack
with
of
COVID.
empathy and compassion.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And when you go in, are people like, are you like do you become a therapist to them or what? What are you going on there?
In a sense, yeah, because I'm trying to teach people, it's not only to show empathy and compassion, but show empathy and compassion to yourself and recognize that you may need stress management. Okay, and maybe you need scream therapy. You know, therapists are being paid big bucks to tell you to do that. Go out to the woodshed and scream for a while. You could do that for free. Scream therapy, just get it out of your system.
Oh, so that does work?
That does work. That does work.
Well, I was going to say that I can have a tantrum and,
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't call it a tantrum.
And
I lost. I didn't make my argument. I lost. Basically, that's how I see it. I presented something. I lost. Somebody won out, and that's how it always feels like a win-lose game, and that your colleagues are looking at you, going, "Okay, you know." Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and that's definitely a situation where it's a win-lose, and you lost the bid or so on, and how you react and respond to those feelings, which you absolutely have every right to feel. You got to be careful how you react and respond to that. You don't go home, start throwing things at the wife, husband and kids, or whatever, you know,
yeah.
driving crazy, cutting people off, yelling at Stephanie. It's just how you react and respond to that is the key. And that's one of the things I'm trying to tell people as we go through these training seminars. It's how you react and respond to other people internally, your own emotions. If you lose control of yourself, you're doggone sure going to lose control of the situation.
All right, and so let's talk to the audience here that's watching us. So how can you help businesses that might see there's a problem, or just maybe better, just improve their communication? Because there may be people he or she, that's a leader, that people are going home frustrated. They don't even know there's a problem, that there's a communication issue.
That's actually the benefit of working with my team. Not only do you get, you know, it's a 4.5-hour seminar. I lecture with a slideshow presentation and all that for about 2 hours, and then again, the magic is when you go with a partner, maybe two partners, small team unit, to go through 4 very different dynamic, realistic scenarios, each one based on either actual incidents that organization has encountered or a situation that they could potentially encounter, angry customer, client, coworker, so on. For example, we were working with a school, and I played the role of a father who was inside the school looking for his daughter, or demanding that they bring my daughter to me. Everyone was caught up with policy procedure of, "Sir, why don't you just come with us to the office and sign in?" And I'm yelling and screaming, "No, you bring my daughter to me right now." They were so caught up with policy procedure, they were missing me making suicidal, homicidal statements. I was yelling and screaming and saying, "You know what, my wife wants to leave me, her mom is leaving me, and I'll be doggone if my daughter's going to grow up with a stepdad. I'm going to take care of that in the parking lot right now. You go bring her to me." So they were missing these comments.
I would be like, "Put her in the bathroom. We're getting hiding this girl."
And this this is why listening to someone, as difficult as it can be, is one of the key things you need to be able to do when you're trying to successfully and effectively de-escalate a situation. While they're venting, you need to make sure you're engaged in listening to them, because they might give you a clue that this is a bigger issue, and someone needs to get on the phone and get the police coming.
But look in the camera and see how people can reach you.
People can reach me by Googling Gentle Response. The name of my business is Gentle Response, and also with the help of Stephanie and Grow Business Now. You can find me everywhere and so on. I'm on all the social media platforms, because if you're trying to be legit in this day and age, you got to have a social media presence, right?
You do. I want to thank John Riley.
Thank you.
Gentle Response. I can't wait to have you back on the show. I think it's something that COVID and stuff. And now we'll talk about, you know, how people are yelling at their screens,
Right.
at their employees, right? All right, this is Pamela Keim from Grand Tap Media Business TV, and we will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.